no blame on George. He got caught up in the turbulent wake of Charles Leclerc's Ferrari, and he drifted out to a place he wouldn't normally have been if that Ferrari wasn't there. And Max felt pretty aggrieved by this. Now, this is where it now starts to really unravel, and where I'm still not sure why Red Bull decided to tell Max to give the place back, because the stewards said that was a racing incident and they were not going to request that the place be given back.
Hello and welcome back to the Fast and the Curious. We have got one hell of a race debrief today. The Spanish Grand Prix delivered all of the drama, and especially from lap 60 onwards, that's when I really started paying attention. I'm Betty Glover. Today we've got no Christian Hugill or Greg James, but I can offer you somebody who knows a thing or two about Formula One. In fact, he was calling all of yesterday's drama. Sky Sports F1 commentator David Croft is here. Welcome to the podcast, Crofty.
Thank you very much for inviting me on. I didn't realise I was replacing two people today. That's quite a weight on my shoulders now.
I know, all the pressure is on your shoulders, so I hope you can deliver today. Do you feel like you can?
I'll do my best. I managed to get Nico Rosberg to sit down in a calm room after the race yesterday, so this should be a doddle.
Yeah, you did well with Nico Rosberg. You did really well with Nico. Look, firstly, though, you told me that you were going to go on a run this morning before the podcast.
Yeah.
Have you managed it?
No, it didn't happen because despite my best efforts, I didn't actually get home until about 4 a.m. Last night from Barcelona. You know that feeling when the plane is late and you know that something even worse is going to happen in terms of you're not going to get to where you need to go. Yeah, that was last night. We all got onto the plane about 11 o'clock, 11:15 in Barcelona, and then the captain announced we were flying to Birmingham, which is nowhere near Heathrow.
God.
So, quick rearrangement of taxis and people getting on buses and all that sort of thing. And I got home just before 4 a.m. It was daylight. Dawn was breaking as I stepped through the door.
That is not what you want, is it? So you had like the high of the race finished, you're like, wow, that was epic. And then suddenly you're just like, oh, we're in Birmingham.
Yeah.
It's not
So
what
I've had
anyone
about 4
wants.
hours sleep, which was not conducive to a run. So my running buddy is absolutely furious with me this morning. He's going to have to wait until later. And I will go and have one. I need to get fit, Betty, for a premiere. I've got to go to the movie premiere in a couple of weeks' time.
Oh, the F1 movie.
On the movie, absolutely.
Right.
So
okay.
I've got to walk down a red carpet in New York City, and I just need to shift about 10 stone of excess body weight.
Well, do you know what? You work with a lot of very fit people, don't you? So maybe you could be asking Nico Rosberg for a few fitness tips.
Do you know what? I did actually once ask Nico Rosberg for a few fitness tips.
Oh, yeah? What did he say?
He said he used to do power walking on a treadmill, which I do occasionally. And he'd do 6 kilometers an hour on the treadmill on a 15% incline. And while he was doing that, he'd play 7 hands of poker. And I'm like, have you got a gambling problem? He went, no, it's about training my mind as well. Because, there's physical fitness and there's physical, you get tired physically in a race, but your brain gets tired as well. So the point of that exercise was to try and keep my mind in shape to, cope with the latter stages of a race and still be thinking really, really clearly. Obviously works because he won a world championship. Yeah. So I'm not encouraging anyone to go and play 7 hands of poker and gamble away their life savings, but it obviously works for some people, and it did for Nico.
Maybe Max Verstappen could do with a bit of that, to be honest, to be able to control his brain when things get a bit too much.
Yeah, what did you think of that? You were watching back at home, right? You were watching live on Sky F1. What was your initial reaction?
Well, firstly, Crofty, I thought, bloody hell, this commentator's good, isn't he?
And you realise, Nico does make a few salient points, right?
What did I think? I just think, Max, what are you doing? And I get it, because I think he was just so frustrated, wasn't he? He was in this cauldron of just frustration. He was frustrated that he was on the hard tyres for that restart. I mean, that's not ideal, is it? He was frustrated that, the Charles Leclerc little sort of, coming together. Then he had George Russell. Yeah. Then he was told that he needed to give the place back to George Russell. And he was just like, he just lost it, didn't he? He just completely unraveled. And I think Max Verstappen, what on earth were you doing?
Do you know what? Today's statement from Max, where he's come out and given an apology and said, look, it shouldn't have happened, and it was the wrong thing to do, shows a lot of maturity in Max, and fair play to him for coming out and doing that. He didn't have to. You know, he's not obliged to answer to anything that he does, apart from when the stewards call him up to see him, and the team want to have a chat as well. But I just thought, you know, that's a mature approach. He's slept on it overnight. He's reflected on what happens, and you know, should be applauded for just being, you know, a decent human being, which Max is. But I think, like a lot of people, he can get a bit hot-headed, and all circumstances, as you've kind of alluded to, went against him towards the end of that race. First and foremost, Red Bull ran a brilliant strategy yesterday. The three stop really worked for Max, and in the briefings that I had before the race, we go and see some teams, and we get a bit of an insight to enable us to understand what may or may not happen. We were talking about the three stop strategy, and I was saying, do you think someone might try it? On paper, it looks like a really bad strategy. It's really slow, but we've seen it to great effect with Max, also with Lewis Hamilton in Barcelona in the past. And given the tyre options he's got, a three-stopper might be the way forward. Now, it wasn't exactly shut down, that theory, but it wasn't expected. And I think Red Bull caught McLaren and everyone else by surprise by running that three-stop strategy. And fair play to them for that. And they were really making it work. And as we heard, the messages to Lando Norris in particular, after Max had, you know, jumped him at the start, he was very much on the Norris radar for that race.
This is why it's so frustrating, isn't it? Because he was having a very decent race. The strategy was interesting. He was keeping the pressure on those McLarens. It was all going pretty well, considering, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then the safety car happened, and that really went against their strategy. So first and foremost, why did Red Bull put him on the hard compound tyre? And I went to get some answers on this after the race, because with all the hullabaloo that was going on, we didn't really ask the question in the commentary. I just thought, why? No one was on the hards at all. Why go and do those hard tyres? They basically, Red Bull had no other option but to use those hard tyres. The only other set of tyres they had was a set of used softs that had done the laps to the grid and had done 4 laps in qualifying as well. So they were 7-lap-old used soft tyres, which is what he was on when he was out on the track before the safety car. So you're swapping like for like. There's no advantage there whatsoever. So they thought, actually, we want to be on new tyres. We've only got the hards. We'll do the hard tyre. Fair play then to Oscar Piastri, because when he controlled the pace after the safety car pulled back in, he crawled around that lap. So any heat that Max had built up in those hard tyres, and they take longer to generate the heat, was dissipating, faster than, someone's cold drink on a warm Barcelona afternoon, because it really was very, very hot there. But that didn't mean he was getting the right heat into the tyres. So Oscar did a brilliant job, jumped the start. Then we saw Max get that snap in the tank slapper. And how he saved that, I really don't know. That could have been a car going into the wall. He then thought Charles, was driving into him. What Max was trying to do was just edge Charles a little bit to the right-hand side, which was the dirty side of the track, pick up some marbles and help him, defend that place. And it was just one of those incidents, and the stewards ruled pretty much that way. But in the car, it probably felt a lot greater an impact to Max than it did to those that were watching, with us on Sky F1. You could see the way that his head moved. Then we get into turn 1, and George has banged into him. And that was quite a big impact that you would feel as a driver. No blame on George. He got caught up in the turbulent wake of Charles Leclerc's Ferrari, and he drifted out to a place he wouldn't normally have been if that Ferrari wasn't there. And Max felt pretty aggrieved by this. Now, this is where it now starts to really unravel, and where I'm still not sure why Red Bull decided to tell Max to give the place back, because the stewards said that was a racing incident and they were not going to request that the place be given back.
This is the thing I don't understand, and this is the thing that I think tips Max over the edge, doesn't it?
Yeah, correct. And it is. Now, the way things are policed in Formula One, when a driver leaves the track and might gain an advantage, race control, the race director, Rui Marquez, his policy is that the teams can police that themselves to a certain extent. And if you give the place back pretty much straight away, then stewards aren't going to get involved. In Monaco, for instance, if you cut the chicane, as George Russell did when he got past Alex Albon eventually, and he saw a bit of red mist, you give the place back by back, then no problems whatsoever. George Russell got into trouble because he didn't give the place back, and he was quite belligerent about it on the radio. That's another matter for probably a previous podcast. But Red Bull obviously felt that there was enough doubt there that if the stewards did look at it, Max might have got a penalty for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. So given that the field was so tightly bunched up because we just had the safety car, better to give one place back than get a 5 or a 10-second penalty that might then take you to 10th, which is where Max Verstappen eventually finished.
Ended up, yeah.
So we hear the radio and we can hear Max getting pretty irate. And George obviously senses, and I did as a commentator, that Max was letting him past. And then Max speeds up into the corner and they make contact. He hits George, and the rest we talked about a lot. So that was the real red rag to a bull moment. You cannot do that. You can't just drive into somebody, whether you're Max Verstappen, whether you're his teammate Yuki Tsunoda, whether you're anyone. You just can't do it. And he knows he let himself down a bit there. And I think today's statement is a reflection of that, and a reflection of him feeling, I let the team down, I let myself down, I shouldn't be doing that sort of thing. I hope we can draw a line under it, but I hope more that we never see an instance like that again, because Max is better than that. He doesn't need to be doing that sort of thing. And no one is going to criticise Max Verstappen at the end of the race if he finishes behind George Russell. He's following team orders. Why? For the sake of 4 points, risk even more points being lost, and that's exactly what happened.
It's interesting he's released this statement, isn't it? Because after the race, he said to Sky F1, does it matter? He just didn't want to talk about it. He was clearly so frustrated. He made some snarky comments to various different reporters as well. And now he's thought about it, probably watched it back, probably took stock, because when you step away from something. Also, we forget as well that these drivers are coming and they have to go speak straight afterwards when they're full of adrenaline and they're not thinking straight. So he's had time to think, and he's obviously gone, that wasn't okay. But a couple of people have messaged into the podcast. They've said they want to know, have either of you lost respect for Max after that?
No, not at all. You don't lose respect for somebody for one instance. Now, if it becomes a pattern and he does it every single week, then you probably do lose a little bit of respect, but he doesn't. And I absolutely respect Max for the athlete that he is, and the superhuman Formula One talent that he is as well. And knowing Max away from the cameras, the person that he is as well. And there is a side to Max that is a very sensitive, normal, fun human being. So I haven't lost respect for him. I've got respect for him today by coming out and making the statement that he has. I think that's shown great maturity. But in life, we're all very judgmental in life, and I think we're all probably a bit guilty of that. So I try very hard not to be too judgmental, and forgiveness is a wonderful thing. And I think we can forgive decisions made in the heat of the moment, and because I'm not surprised tempers were flaring and boiling over. It was a boiling day. You're sat in that cockpit. Your adrenaline is flowing at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Everything around you is red hot, and there isn't a few moments for calm reflection. So you do what you do, and he did what he did, and it happens. And I don't think we should lose respect for him just because he did that. Now, I'm sure fans will have their own view on this one, and whether they're a Max fan or whether they're not a Max fan probably dictates their opinion on him as a driver. But I try and sit on the fence and see the real side of it and think, well, Zinedine Zidane once headbutted someone in a Champions League final. Do we lose respect for Zinedine Zidane? No, he's one of the greatest footballers that ever lived.
Iconic that moment as well. Now we look back on it and we think, fair play. Margaret Rachel.
We don't think fair play. We think you're still an amazing footballer, but we'll give you a 5-yard berth when we're coming past you.
Yeah. I look back at it now though, and I do think Iconic. You've provided us with an iconic moment. Was it right? No, but it was iconic.
No.
Look, Margaret, Rachel, Andrew, Steve, Stacey, and many others have said, was a 10-second penalty enough, or should Max have been disqualified?
Well, not if you're Nico Rosberg. The black flag was coming out, and he was almost waving it in the commentary box.
There already.
And that's Nico's right. He's a world champion, and he's an expert in the sport. I think a 10-second penalty was enough in that moment for me because of the punishment that was given. It relegated Max down into 10th place. That's a chunk of points that he's lost there. Now, we can go back to Baku, which was a 10-second stop-go penalty when Sebastian Vettel, ran into Lewis Hamilton. That was behind a safety car. It wasn't really happening at full speed, and that was really losing his rag in that moment. So there was a precedent for that sort of thing. It was a more lenient penalty. The penalty guidelines are issued to the stewards, and they can go harsher if they wish on those. But they just thought, actually, 10-second penalty takes him down to 10th. That's enough. I think the bigger part of that penalty, and this is where Max now does need to be very careful in the next 2 races, is that he got 3 penalty points, and it took him to 11 for the season. Now, the next penalty points to come off after the Austrian Grand Prix. So he's got 2 races now where he's on 11. If he gets to 12, that's a race ban. So he's got to be very careful in the next couple of races not to pick up any penalty points. And that I think shouldn't be overlooked, because the stewards have put him on a kind of last warning, as it were. Do it once more, and we're going to be forced to give you a race ban. And that's not what Red Bull certainly want, because Max is scoring most of their points, and it's not what Max Verstappen wants, because he wants to be out there racing.
He's got Canada and Austria then to make sure that he's got clean races. Do you think that, and I know we've spoken a lot about how these things sort of happen in the heat of the moment, and how, we've got respect for him. Now he's released this statement today saying that, it wasn't right. But do we also think, look, you're a professional sports person. This isn't like your first few years in the sport. You should be better than this. You should not be losing your head and doing something like that.
Yes.
Because he does this, doesn't he? He's known for...
As a professional, you need to have a professional attitude. But, he's still only 27. We shouldn't forget how young Max Verstappen is. And are you fully matured, like yourself, Betty, after celebrating a milestone birthday this year?
Definitely not fully matured, no.
Exactly. Am I fully matured after celebrating various milestone birthdays over the years? No, definitely not. It's an easy argument, isn't it? You're a professional sports person. You should behave exemplary at all times.
Yeah.
You should go and have a chat to Saka about the way he waved Simon Lazenby away on the grid yesterday. We'll be talking about that one as well. I can't believe he didn't want to talk to Lazenby. That's appalling. Lazenby, by the way, saw it as a badge of honour that he was standing in for Martin, doing a bit of a grid walk, and he just got refused for an interview by a member of the England football team. He's like, I've joined Martin's club now, but we're okay. I don't buy that, just because you're a professional sports person, it doesn't mean on the pitch your emotions don't spill over. They are going to. And do you know what? I want to see people at the top really caring and getting emotional as well, because sport is all about passion and emotion. If they don't care, then why should we care? But they obviously do care, and that's why these things happen.
What consequences is this going to have then for Verstappen's season? Because he's 49 points behind Oscar in that championship battle.
Well, he's chucked away a load of points. And you rightly mentioned, that gap has massively increased. I don't necessarily think this incident is going to change the destiny of this season. I've tipped Oscar Piastri for the title before Sunday, and I think Oscar is a champion in the making. I've been saying it for the last couple of years, to be honest. I think the way the McLaren... Yeah, we see... We think alike. I like this. This is good.
We're aligned on the Oscar Piastri. Yeah.
But there's something about Oscar, which I know sounds like a really bad comedy movie. There's something about Oscar that just smacks of, you've got all this under control, mate.
Yeah.
You are cool and calm and composed, and you pounce at the right moment, and you've got a really long memory, and you know that what goes around comes around, and you're going to get your own back eventually. And you're also going to keep improving, and he really has improved this year. But in terms of Max, I think the fact that McLaren were dominating the race in the way they were, given the technical directive going into that race where everyone thinks McLaren are going to get their wings clipped, literally, that has more of a consequence to Max's season and whether he retains his championship or not than just this one penalty. I mean, there's a long way to go, so don't count your chickens yet. But talking to the people at McLaren that I spoke to after the race, there was a smile on the faces of a lot of senior engineering people who were quite happy to say, well, we did say Red Bull were looking in the wrong areas, and we did say the front wing deflection test and stiffening things up wasn't going to make any difference. And so we put a 50 quid bracket on the wing, and guess what? Stiffened it up and it didn't make any difference. And Red Bull are looking in the wrong places. That will have more of an impact on Max's season than what we witnessed in the last few laps.
It is just such a shame, isn't it? Because up until now, it felt like he was very much staying in touch with the McLaren lads at the front. 2 wins in, was it Japan and Imola? And although he's never said that he's in that title fight, he sort of always denies that, doesn't he? It really felt like he did have a chance. And now I just can't help but feeling after this weekend, that's gone.
Yeah, no, but I think there's a long way to go. He's still in a title fight as long as mathematically he can win a title. And I know that the odds diminish on whether he does it or not, but he's 2 wins behind, and we've only had 9 races out of 24. There is a long way to go. I think, Lando Norris is very much in this title fight as well. And don't forget how strong Lando was in the final races of last year. And therefore, if that replicates itself, Oscar's going to come under pressure at tracks that Lando likes too. And we go to Canada next, and that might be a completely different story. The Red Bull Ring, Max could dominate there as well. And all it takes is one bad weekend of unreliability to completely change things around again. That's why people keep tuning in to Sky F1, because they know it ain't over till it's over. And there is an awful lot of action to come between now and the checker flag in Abu Dhabi. But if we were to put, the Fast and Curious budget at the bookmakers on anyone at the moment, we'd probably choose
not a lot in that budget at the moment, Crofty.
Really? That's why I'm on, isn't it, really? Greg, basically, you couldn't satisfy their rider and you thought, who's cheap enough to come on?
Yeah, who you are. No, carry on. What were you saying? If we were to put our budget on...
Yeah, if you were to put your budget on, you put your budget on, Oscar, and you put your budget on McLaren at the moment. But like I say, they're one bad weekend away in terms of unreliability from everyone being right back in the fight again. And whose engines are blowing up at the moment? Mercedes. And who powers McLaren? Mercedes.
Yeah, good point. I didn't really think of it like that.
Two have gone in the last 2 races, which makes me wonder, and just speculating apropos nothing on this one.
Yeah.
Engine manufacturers are subjected to cost cap regulations as well. They've got all of next year to concentrate on. They're flat out for 2026, as they have been for a long time. And are they having to kind of reuse parts a little bit because of the cost cap implications of the new engines and maintaining the old engines? And are we just seeing a bit of wear and tear and fatigue just creeping in a little bit? And that's cost Fernando Alonso, and it's cost Kimi Antonelli in the last couple of races. And if one more goes, then that train of thought might get a bit stronger.
Yeah, okay, interesting. We'll keep an eye out for that. Let's just run everyone through the top 10 from the Spanish Grand Prix then, because we haven't done that at the top. Oscar Piastri obviously won, his 5th win in 9. Lando Norris came 2nd. He's now 10 points behind Oscar in that title race. Charles Leclerc 3rd. George Russell with a dramatic end. He came 4th. Nico Hülkenberg in 5th. We need to talk about that because what on earth? Lewis Hamilton 6th. Isaac Hadjar 7th. Alpine's Pierre Gasly finished 8th. Finally, Fernando Alonso, he got some points. He came in 9th. And dropping from 5th to 10th after that 10-second penalty is Max Verstappen that we've just spoken about. And Crofty, one thing that I can't really wrap my head around, and I wonder whether you can enlighten me, is that Lando said, Oscar drove a great race today. I didn't quite have the pace to match him, but we gave it our best shot. Why doesn't Lando have the pace to match him?
The benefits of running in clean air are being felt massively this season. So when you're the car that's just punching a hole in the nice clean air in front, it's not destroying your tyres. It's not, overheating your car. You can manage the pace the way you want to manage it. When you're behind, there's all sorts of turbulent, effects. It's like going from a visit to the salon to bedhead, in terms of the way your hair would look in that turbulent wake behind. It's just going absolutely everywhere. And it's destroying your tyres because they're in this turbulent wake. It's overheating your car. You're not keeping things cool. And you can't keep as close then as you want to put that pressure on. There were three big things for yesterday in terms of your racing. And if you were stuck behind someone, have you got the pace to overtake them in a couple of laps? Mm. If the answer is yes, go and do it. Have you got enough cooling and aero performance to stay with them for 5 laps and push the person in front into a mistake potentially? If yes, do it. And if the answer is no to both of those, drop back to about 3 seconds behind and stay there for a while. And what I thought was massively impressive from Oscar at times was that he never really let that gap change much, that 4-second margin. He had that comfortable margin over Lando for pretty much a lot of the race. So Lando, every time he put a push on, Oscar managed his tyres sufficiently so he could respond to that push. And then eventually Lando would have to drop back because he just couldn't stay close enough to try and force an error that didn't come. So it was beautiful management by Oscar Piastri. And then Lando just didn't have the pace. Same car, but you're then behind. And look, we've seen this when you get two teammates fighting it out for the lead, as we saw with Nico and Lewis all those years. It's very difficult to try and engineer an offset that gives you a pace advantage if you're the teammate behind the teammate. Mm. One car to another, that can happen a lot more regularly. Same car, very, very difficult. So where it all went wrong for Lando was qualifying, really. Where it went right in Monaco, it went wrong. And this impressed me a bit with Oscar as well, because Lando got a toe to get provisional pole at the start of Q3. We could all see that. And, Oscar was told about it. His response, cheeky. and with that cheeky comes, oh, did he? All right. Well, there's two things here. A, I'll make sure he doesn't get a toe next time. And B, have I got him rattled enough that he's trying to pick up a toe because he thinks that's the only way he's going to get pole position? This is what will be going through Oscar's brain on that one. So he kind of thinks, I've stolen a bit of a march here. But he also has the confidence going into his final run that he has produced some super laps already around Barcelona. And he's fully in control of what he's doing. And, all things being equal, he'll go out and get that pole position. Had Lando got the pole, he might have been into turn one leading away. He wasn't. He was Max, slipped through and take second off him. So for the first 13 laps of the race, he's got to concentrate on trying to get past Max Verstappen, not get as close to his teammate as he possibly can. So already the pace advantage is gone that he might have because he's used up a lot of extra performance in those tyres trying to remedy what happened at the start.
It's so interesting, isn't it? It's so interesting because Oscar just feels so unfazed. It's like he's cruising at the front. And every time you think it's getting a little bit close, he just manages to pull away a little bit. Did you ever think, especially, I guess, after the safety car, did you think, right, we're going to have a battle here?
I thought that the chance of having a battle had substantially increased. But then I just saw the way Oscar was dictating the pace and got the jump. And I'm thinking, well, no, he's away. He's got the jump on absolutely everybody here. In fact, I was saying to Nico as they were coming around turn 12, as the leader, when would you want to go? Now we're going racing. And he went, now, because 3 seconds earlier, Oscar had already gone. So we had a bit of a chuckle about that one. Clear hindsight. Brilliant thing. Great punditry there, Nico. Well done.
Well done, Nico.
And we both had a bit of a giggle about it. And then Max had his moment and the giggle stopped. But he had to survive a restart. There's always pressure with that. But I don't think he ever really felt the pressure. And if he did, he certainly didn't look at it. He might have been the only person in Barcelona not sweating yesterday.
Yeah, I don't think he was sweating. He was cool as a cucumber, wasn't he, at the front? What do you think Lando needs to do then?
He needs to qualify ahead of his teammate. Regularly, getting those pole positions. He needs to, as he said to me in the press conference on Thursday, keep working on where it is he's struggling and where things haven't quite gone his way, and keep diving into the data and finding a way to translate the deficiencies on the data into efficiencies in the car. So there's a lot of hard work. It's like, for everyone who's going through GCSEs and A-levels at the moment, revision is not just a complete and utter pain in the butt, but it is also absolutely necessary. You ain't going to blag it in the exam room. And the exam room for Lando Norris is on a racetrack every other week. So it's revision. He's just got to go back and do a deep dive into the data time and time again, because the answer will be there in the data, and he's then just got to put it right. By the way, if you are midway through your A-levels and your GCSEs, good luck, everybody.
Oh, God.
I hope it goes well.
Yeah, good luck, everybody. That was not a nice time for me. I didn't thrive in those circumstances.
How many GCSEs did you get?
I got loads. Well, not loads, but I got like the average amount. But I failed French and maths.
Did you?
Yeah.
French and maths.
Had to redo maths. Yeah.
So Betty Glover, ladies and gentlemen, never take her out for dinner in Paris. She wouldn't be able to add up the bill.
No, and I wouldn't be paying the fair amount because it wouldn't be ideal. What did you get? I imagine you thrived. I'm going to
sound like Jeremy Clarkson here, but I'm going to sound like Jeremy Clarkson. I got 4 O-levels.
Right.
For viewers of the podcast, the O-level was what they used to have before GCSE, and what your parents would tell you was way, way harder than the GCSE.
Yeah.
Were, because I just didn't do any revision for them. I got 4 O-levels and 1 A-level, and that's what I left. Oh, and a GCSE in law, because I quite like law. I went to college and got a GCSE in law as well. But it's weird, Betty. I wasn't good at revising. I just lacked application.
That's your job now.
Exactly. Revising. And this is now my job. Every single week I sit down and I do revision. My teachers would be so proud of me. They really would.
Do you know what? I'm the same. Hated revision. Hated it. And now I will sit there with my multicolored pens and be writing everything out, stats and all sorts of bloody footballers. It's ridiculous, isn't it?
I think had I been able to take O-level F1, then I might have had half a chance.
A-stars all round.
That sadly wasn't an option back in the day.
Right, we're just going to take a quick break, but when we're back, we're going to talk about Nico Hülkenberg. Okay, so Christian Hugel is at a wedding, Crofty.
I know, ridiculous.
Yeah, ridiculous. He was checking his phone because he's an absolute loser as well, and he sent in this message: "How the did Nico Hülkenberg manage 5th?" And it is a great question. 5th, yes, Crofty.
5th. Well, Christian Hugel. Take a day off, mate.
Yeah, I agree.
You're at a wedding. You're in the sunshine. Take a day off.
Yeah.
I'll explain. This race, if a race couldn't be set up better for Nico Hülkenberg, I don't know what it is. Yeah, I don't think Nico's strength necessarily is tyre management, but I do think when he's got a lot of new sets of tyres at his disposal, he is a proper battler. He's very experienced at wheel to wheel. And if he's in the middle of something and he's got the tyre grip and the car underneath him, he's a phenomenal driver. I think it is one of the biggest shames in Formula One that Nico Hülkenberg holds the record for the most amount of races without a win. He doesn't deserve that. He is a way better driver than that. In fact, the second to Nico Hülkenberg's run of races without a win is Fernando Alonso now. He's kind of moved to the second place. I don't know if you heard my stat of the weekend. I'm so proud of this stat.
Is this about planets?
Yes. Jupiter has done a full orbit of the sun since Fernando Alonso last won a race. 4,333 days for Jupiter, and it's 4,467 for Alonso.
Epic stat, that. Did you see that someone tweeted it and it went viral? Because that's how I saw it. Yeah. Are you proud of yourself?
I'm very proud of myself on that one. That's good. See, that's the best bit about my job. I can say so many things over the course of the weekend. One stupid stat is what people remember. But then if you then go and talk about that with your friends, talk about Formula One, right? And that's a really good thing. Anyway, back to Nico Hülkenberg. He left the track at the start, went down the escape roads, probably picked up a place or two, but nothing wrong with that. He did exactly what he had to do. And got involved in some great scraps. His middle stint on 30-odd laps on the medium was a super middle stint. And he kept himself in touch throughout. The safety car undoubtedly helped with that 5th place, and Max's penalty helped with that 5th place. Lewis Hamilton running with damage to his Ferrari definitely helped with that as well. And we'll talk about Lewis in a moment. But the fact that he didn't get out of Q1 also helped Nico Hülkenberg because he had a brand new set of new soft tyres for that final stint when the safety car went back in. And on tyres that he didn't have to worry about managing, he went out and just delivered. And I am so chuffed for him and for Sauber as well. I really wanted Gabriel Bortoleto to get a point too.
Same.
He deserves it. He's a way better driver than than he's able to show on the track at the moment. But he's also mature enough, even at a young age, to know his career is not going to be impacted by this season. Look. He's part of Fernando Alonso's management stable. Fernando was driving for Minardi in his first season. And then, we could all see he was a bit of a world beater. And we can see that Gabriel Bortoleto is a world beater. And just because they're finishing in the lower reaches, it doesn't mean they've lost that touch. But Hülkenberg just benefited. The strategy worked for him. The conditions worked for him. The fact that he had a load of new tyres worked for him too. And it was just, everything came together. In the words of Jupiter orbiting the sun, the planets aligned for him on Sunday afternoon.
You come up with so many good one-liners. Do you think about them first, or do they just naturally spring up into your brain?
No. You've known me long enough, Betty, to know that I'm just not that dedicated to start thinking of one-liners. And I am the sort of guy that in the moment will hunt for a really cheesy gag and try and make a funny out of it. And that's what I've done all my life, to be honest. The one-liners, they're there in the back of my mind subconsciously, I'm sure, but I don't write anything down.
Really? Because I know quite a lot of some of our best football commentators, if they're doing like a final or whatever, they will write something thinking, if that happens, I know exactly what I'm going to say. Like, let's say if Liverpool win the league, I know I'm going to read this sentence. Do you ever do that?
No. And there's a reason. There is a reason for that. And it's because if I'm writing things out beforehand, I'm delivering things that just aren't in the moment. It's my job to be in the moment and try and be the narrator of what's going on in that moment. And if I'm saying stuff that I've written 2 days ago, that's not really being in that moment. Also, if you write something down, you try your damnedest to shoehorn it in to any sort of situation, rather than just letting the commentary flow and be a naturally evolving conversation between Martin and myself and Andrew and whoever, and Bernie and whoever, to an audience that are listening in. So I try and just be in the moment at all times. And besides, this is F1. If I was to write things down that I might use later,
it would never happen.
I'd have an Encyclopedia Britannica.
Yeah.
All right, now where's that line that I was going to use for this moment?
Page 98. Christ.
It just won't work. Talk amongst yourselves, people. I've got a great line for this one.
Oh, God. Let's talk about Lewis Hamilton then. What are your thoughts? Because that interview he did with Sky F1 again afterwards was almost heartbreaking to watch. And we've seen a lot of Lewis Hamilton being that down in the dumps. But this time it just felt sort of worse than ever. He's just completely blaming himself. He's saying that they're slow and it's his fault.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, he was really down on himself. And no one likes to see that, because at the end of the day, whether you're a fan or not, Lewis Hamilton is the greatest racing driver we've ever seen. Statistically, he is the greatest, and I think he's the greatest, even without the stats on that one. And he wears his heart on his sleeve. And should be applauded for that, because it does a lot of good when he wears his heart on his sleeve. He did apologise to Rachel Brooks for being so down in the dumps off camera.
Did he?
He said, "I'm really sorry about that. I'm just so down." And that just shows the extent that he really was down. He's not putting this on for the cameras, trust me. And once again, it's right after the race. He's not had time for a debrief. He's not had time to have a chat with his race engineer. So he probably didn't know the extent of whatever damage the car had at the time he spoke to Rachel. And he probably didn't realise that it was the car that was hindering him more so than his driving in that one. And look, when you're in a Ferrari and you're overtaken by Nico Hülkenberg, albeit in a Ferrari-powered Sauber, you are going to question, is it me, really? Am I doing something wrong here? Because it didn't go for him really from the outset. Once again, I thought Ferrari were a bit guilty of waiting a little bit too long to swap their drivers around. And I'm surprised about that, because I did ask the question before the race as to if you're on a different strategy and you need to swap your drivers around. Yep, we're on it. Don't worry. We've got it all covered. It's fairly evident that the minute Charles came up to the back of Lewis, he needed to go past. because he had new mediums as well, try and make that strategy work. And Lewis was struggling for pace. But the car, we don't know yet. I haven't spoken to Ferrari to find out exactly what was wrong with the car. But if you're riding a horse and the horse has got one leg that's not quite feeling 100%, then you ain't going to win the Grand National. So Lewis shouldn't get too down. I think his average finishing position is somewhere around sixth place this year. I think it's 8 points per race that he's picked up. So he's just basically matched the medium for Ferrari in his performances. But he's not gone to Ferrari to finish sixth. He's gone to Ferrari to get podiums and win races. And bar the sprint in China, that hasn't looked like happening at all.
Do you think it will? Because I feel like Ferrari fans are losing faith a little bit. And I don't blame them.
Yeah, but if you lose faith after 9 races, that's a real shame. I'm trying to think of a really good analogy here, to be honest. And I will come up with a really good analogy. It's like basically being... It's like being a Taylor Swift fan and not liking her first 2 albums and thinking she's absolutely rubbish, and then realising that Fortnite was actually a really cool album, and you sometimes get better as you go on.
I was actually the other way around. I really liked Taylor Swift at the start and I've slowly gone off her. I'm going to get loads of Taylor Swift fans coming at me now.
You're a country girl, you see, that's the thing. You obviously like the country scene. Which, by the way, can I just say, talking of country, there's a new track out by Chris Stapleton from the F1 movie. Yeah,
right.
As I used to be. It's brilliant. It is one. There's a Tate McRae track out.
I was about to say, I've heard that.
Yeah, I'm going to see Tate McRae with my stepdaughter in a couple of weeks' time. We've done Little Mix together.
You'll fit in there, Crofty.
Yeah, we've done Little Mix, we've done Taylor Swift, and now we're doing Tate McRae.
You're going to stand out like a sore thumb in that Tate McRae concert.
I am. I'm going to be fully absorbed in the whole thing here. And eventually, I am going to get my stepdaughter to come and see Machine Head or Periphery or Parkway Drive or some of the bands that I like.
Okay.
They're just totally going over your head here.
Your poor stepdaughter, Jesus Christ.
She's going to come and love a bit of metal eventually, but for the time being, going to see Tate McRae. But it's all from the soundtrack from F1 the album. It's a mega soundtrack. The Tate McRae track's really good. The Chris Stapleton track is phenomenally good. The Ed Sheeran track's really cool as well.
Oh, amazing! I actually can't wait to see it. I'm a bit of a pessimist, so like part of me does think, oh god, it's going to be crap, isn't it? But I hope I'm wrong.
Is this how you adopt your life? Do you wake up every morning and think this is going to be a bit rubbish?
I don't wake up going, oh, it's going to be sunny and blue skies today, because I don't like being let down. So I'll go, oh, the weather's going to be crap today. Look out the window, sunny blue skies. I think, what a time to be alive. Didn't expect this.
Bounce out of bed, expecting the best, and hopefully the best will happen. When are you going to go and see the movie?
Well, maybe when it's out. I don't know. When's it out?
Well, it's out on June the 27th.
Well, June the 27th then, Crofty.
Well, I think you might be able to go and see it on the 25th as well. But I just wondered if you're going to the premiere, if you've got like premiere tickets or anything.
I don't think we do, actually. So if you want to...
I need to have a word.
Yeah, a little chat.
I'm in the movie as well, you see.
I've heard this, yeah.
I'll give Brad a call.
Give Brad a call. Say, look, the Fast and the Curious need to get to the premiere because...
I've got a +1 for the premiere, Brad. And have you got a +1? Are you bringing anyone? But Betty and Christian could probably come from the podcast as our +1s. That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Perfect. I think Brad will absolutely take you up on that, for sure.
I haven't spoken to Brad. I've never met Brad Pitt. Everyone in Formula 1 has met Brad Pitt except me.
I've seen him from a distance at Silverstone. And I was just like looking at him like, oh, he's quite short, isn't he?
Yeah, I don't know. I've not got that close. I tell you who has got really close. Tell you who has got that. I know we're on the podcast here, but just everyone watching, keep this to yourself. I tell you who's got really close to Brad Pitt, right, is Karun Chandok.
Has he? Yeah. Oh, I can see that.
So Karun is told by his wife, if you're going to Silverstone and if Brad Pitt's there, I want a selfie of you and Brad Pitt, my two favourite people in the same picture. Why not? And Karun is hunting for Brad Pitt throughout the whole of the British Grand Prix and has failed miserably to get this selfie. So he finishes in the commentary box. He's like, I've been in the box for the last 3 hours. I need a wee. So he went to the loo. And as he's standing there, who should walk in but...
Oh, no. At the urinals?
Exactly. He didn't tell me whether he got the picture or not, to be fair. It was a question I just didn't want to ask. But, get in touch. Tell you what, do me a favour, everyone. Right? At Karun Chandok or whatever he is on Instagram, send him a message. Yeah. Did you get a picture of Brad Pitt at Silverstone? Crofty wants to know.
Great. Well, George Russell told us once on this podcast that he was at a urinal doing a wee and a fan was next to him and a fan turned around and went, George, can I have a selfie whilst he's weeing? And he's like, well, obviously bloody not. So I imagine that's what Karun Chandok did with Brad Pitt.
Well, we don't know. And I like the way that our voices have like gone down to a really hushed tone while we've been discussing this. But that is your Fast and Curious exclusive for the week.
I love it. Right, before we let you go, because I know you're a very tired man, I want to get on to Isaac Hadjar, because I think he's the rookie of the year so far. Do you agree or do you disagree?
Oh, I do. I agree. I was actually chatting at the gate to his strategy team from Racing Bulls last night as well. And they were full of praise, as they should be, given the amount of points he's scoring, and just full of praise for the way that he brushed off what happened in Australia on the formation lap, and has just taken every opportunity going. I mean, one of the things I really loved about the race yesterday was that the two PSG fans who were watching together, Pierre Gasly and Isaac Hadjar, were watching the 5-0 win together, then were like inseparable on the track as well. Every time I look round, like they're both battling each other all the time, and it was mega. But Isaac is probably the closest thing to Max Verstappen's driving style that Red Bull have in their stable at the moment. You know, he's quite happy to throw a car around and want that kind of front, that pointy front end. I think it's too early for him to go into that Red Bull team alongside Max, but maybe for the future, that's something that they can work on. And maybe that's what they do need to work on. Find a driver. Rather than trying to find a car that suits both drivers, find two drivers with the same driving style.
That suit the car.
Yeah. You know, from there. But no, the strategy was right for them once again. It was a shame that, Liam missed out on points for Racing Bull. But he's just, with every race that goes by, there is a confidence that's coming out. And he's a lovely guy. It is Isaac. He really is. I was on a track tour last year in Austin. just helping out Red Bull.
Of course you were.
On a truck. Well, they just said to me, so will you just come and have a chat to some of our guests? We're going on a tour of the track. And I'm like, well, actually, I've never been on a truck going around the Austin racetrack. This could be quite fun. So I got doing a bit of a commentary, and Isaac Hadjar was on the truck. And I said, well, come on, let's have a little chat to Isaac, ladies and gentlemen, the next superstar from the Red Bull stable. I mean, at that stage, he wasn't even in F1 in 2025. And for once, I actually got my predictions right on that. But he was just a lovely, lovely guy there. Really calm, really down to earth, very smiley, very jokey as well. And he's carried on in exactly the same vein. But on the track, he is maximising every single point. His qualifying is exceptional this year. When he's had the chance to get into Q3, he's done it. And should that have been a track for Racing Bulls? Maybe Williams' poor performance yesterday helped the team a bit, but they did a super job. Yeah,
P7, P6, and P9 Hadjar's last three races. That is not bad at all, is it? Fernando Alonso finally getting some points. The final thing that I want to talk about, because this is incredible. It was just getting worse for him, wasn't it? Another race, no points. That stat was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Oh, and now he's the first Formula One driver to score points in 21 seasons. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's ridiculous that he's still as motivated as he is. He should have scored points in Monaco. The engine problem cost him from the outset there before he finally retired. I don't think he's driving badly at all. When he gets a chance, he goes and takes it. I hope he's around for at least one more year after this year as well. And it was lovely to see him get points. And Aston Martin needed him to get points. And they still dropped a place in the championship, even with those points. And that Aston Martin car is arguably the 6th, 7th, at times fastest car on the grid, which is not where they should be, given the investment that's gone into that team. And I think before Andy Cowell came in as CEO and now team principal, there were a couple of very wasted years where the leadership from the very top, and I'm not talking about Lawrence Stroll, but from the top, was just not helping, and things weren't firing on all cylinders, and they just lost their way after those 8 podiums that they scored in 2023. Things just got steadily worse after that. But to go back to Fernando, he needed a bit of a confidence boost. even at his age and experience, you will doubt yourself if it's not quite coming your way. And it was a very timely race. The big problem for Aston Martin now is who's going to drive alongside Fernando Alonso when they get to Canada. Now, we hope it's Lance Stroll. We hope he's okay. And we said, best wishes, Lance. The procedure, I understand, has taken place.
What's
I'd
the
heard
procedure
nothing.
Again?
Well, on his wrists.
It's on his wrist, isn't it?
So I heard
he's
nothing.
been injured for ages.
Well, yeah, remember he had that bike accident at the start of 2023, and he came back and he, raced back to the track, and he was superb in Bahrain for that first race. And, driving through the pain barrier, broke both his wrists. And 2.5 weeks later, he's racing. I hadn't heard that had flared up again, or that the team are monitoring it, but they keep things to themselves from time to time. Did it flare up so badly after qualifying that he couldn't do the race, or was it flaring up all weekend long? And if so, really, he shouldn't have taken part in qualifying. They should have let Felipe Drugovich take part.
Exactly, yeah.
Because that's why you have a reserve driver for that one. Did something happen when Lance got out of the car, as is being rumoured? I don't know the answer. But I do know that he was shouting and swearing a lot when he got out of the car, and I know that things might have been thrown, but whether that would have damaged his wrist or not, I'm not quite sure. So you hear what you hear on that. But it's a real shame for Lance, who has scored all of the team's points so far. I don't think he's driving that badly this year. I really don't. He's limited by the performance of the car. I'd like to see him back as soon as possible. If he's not in Canada, Felipe Drugovich will be. He's the reserve driver. He's under contract. I know that he's got to drive at Le Mans, but I know Felipe Drugovich well enough to know that if it's Le Mans or it's Formula One, he's going to be on the F1 grid.
Yeah.
Because he wants to be an F1 driver.
I think a lot of people were quite confused as to why he wasn't brought in yesterday, but obviously if your driver's done qualifying, you can't just bring in a reserve driver after qualifying.
That you have to have taken part in at least one practice session to be able to go and race. And qualifying, handily, is called qualifying practice. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the official title of qualifying. So that then counts. Paul di Resta once stood in for Williams when Felipe Massa got injured in Hungary. In fact, he was in the commentary box alongside me on Sky F1 when he got the message from Williams to say, you might want to abandon your TV duties for the weekend. We need it.
On that, actually, we've got a message in from Grace, and she says, what is it like commentating with ex-drivers like Nico Rosberg? Because he can be quite spicy, can Nico?
Well, he can. I mean, I've known Nico 20 years now. I used to have to go and do a podcast in my first season with Nico for the Williams team. And they weren't having the greatest results at all times. So I kind of got him at his worst on that one. And I've known him all the way through his career. Nico is a lot of fun. And he gives an opinion. That's what he's there to do. He's a race winner. He's a world champion, and he gives an opinion that is his valid opinion in the moment. I don't always agree with it. I don't agree with everyone's opinions. That's the beauty of opinions. You don't have to. But I think he brings an energy and a life, and does things in a different way. And when you've been on stage at a Rocky singing "Living on a Prayer" together,
at a what?
You can do commentary together. Rockyoke. You ever done Rockyoke?
No, what's Rockyoke?
It's like karaoke with a live rock band.
Oh, epic.
Nico Rosberg and myself once got on stage to do Living on a Prayer together.
I would love to see that. At first, I thought you said rookioke, and I was like, what, is that when all the rookies come together and do karaoke? I don't understand. Why were you there, Crofty?
You know what, Betty? Right, that has just given me a brilliant idea for a feature on Sky Sports later on this season.
Epic feature, isn't it? Rookioke.
When we go to Vegas, right, because what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas unless it's on telly, we should do a little end of season rap with the rookies and get them to sing about your season. Choose one song that sums up your season, and sing it to a live audience, and we'll call it Rookioke. You have just given me a brilliant idea.
Living on a Prayer would be quite a lot of their songs, I reckon.
Exactly. Liam Lawson could have Bad to the Bone.
Yeah. Colin Pinto will have to have something. I can't think of one.
Oh, well, do you know what? Give me time on this one, and I'll come up with something epic for Franco.
Yeah.
Don't Cry for Me, Argentina. Try that one.
That's quite a good one. That is a good one. I'll give you that.
We'll have that. If there's no other reason to subscribe to Sky F1 than the fact that every time the wheels turn around, we're live on air and you can watch it all exclusively throughout the season, then the Rookie feature that is now going to be put into our production meeting tomorrow will keep you on the edge of your seat between now and Vegas.
There you go. You can have that for free from me, Crofty.
That's your
coming
gift.
on our podcast. Yeah, exactly.
You know what a gift. Thank you.
Crofty, thank you so much. You can enjoy a little bit of chill time now. Go on your run. Have a little break from Formula One.
Well, right, so I've got an hour to chill. Then I'm going to talk about pretty much what we've been talking about for the last hour and a bit in the space of 5 minutes on Sky Sports News.
Oh, well, I'll tune into that, see what you say. What aren't you going to say?
This has been my rehearsal for Sky Sports News. I'm going to say, Max Verstappen, black flag him. It's outrageous. Oh, I'm not going to say that.
Oh, then you'd go viral.
I don't want to go viral. I'm quite happy as it is.
Yeah, no, I agree. No one wants to go viral. Anyway, Crofty, thank you so much. You've been brilliant. I want to hear some of your Rocky Okie at some point. I'm going to hold you to that.
I have to come out with Nico Rosberg and myself occasionally.
Oh, I'd love it. What a party that would be. We're going to be back with a Canada preview next week, unless something mad happens between now and then, but fingers crossed it doesn't. Everyone enjoy their week with no racing, and we will see you soon. Goodbye.